All right, so now you've recorded your episode, you're ready to rock and roll. This section, we're going to talk about editing, mixing, and mastering your episode so it sounds perfect once you release it. So, why do we have to go through this process of editing, mixing, and mastering? First of all, the editing process allows you to take out any unwanted noises or sounds in your recording. So think about it this way. If you're having a discussion as a podcast host and you're constantly saying, well, so you have these long pauses. The editing process allows you to edit all of those unwanted sounds and fillers, as we call them, out of your episode. Mixing gives you an overall levels for your sound. It also allows you to add sweeteners to your voice, like equalization and compression, which I'll show you how I use them in my process a little bit later. Mastering. This is something that I had to learn quite a bit later. If you don't master your episode at the very, very end, it won't be up to like radio quality standards. So people will have to really boost the volume when they're listening to your episode, and we want to avoid that. So mastering is critical in the process. So I'm going to walk you through my process for editing, mixing, and mastering and why it's so critically important. Now, for those of you out there that just don't feel comfortable with this process, like it's overly technical, you can actually outsource the editing, mixing, and mastering process. There's folks like Resonate Recordings, again, Resonate Recordings that are out there that'll handle this process for you for a nominal fee. You can also look for sound engineers in your local marketplace that can help you with this process because it is a somewhat steep learning curve. So basically, I'm going to show you the basics of my process for editing, mixing, and mastering that'll get your podcast sounding studio quality and ready to rock and roll. Okay, let's get started. And we're back. I'm going to teach you how to edit, mix, and master your podcast. So we've already learned how to record it. So now I'm going to teach you how to edit, mix it, master, and get it out to your audience. So here we go. So I want to show you a couple of things that I do to improve workflow. So one of the first things that I do is I have pre-recorded music and I have pre-recorded intros and outros that I use. These are called bumpers. The reason I use them is it creates efficiency in my workflow. So I know I can just do a pre-recorded podcast, slap these things in the editing, mixing, and mastering portion, and get them uploaded and ready to go. And secondly, it creates a consistency across all my podcasts. So if I'm in the middle of an interview and I forget to say something that's really valuable about my show, I just have I feel really good that it's already there and pre-recorded. So all you would have to do with this is click on this arrow here. It would create you a new track. I save my bumpers in a folder, open it up, slap them in. Pretty simple. Just something that's not really too big a deal when it comes to editing, mixing, and mastering, but I wanted to point that out. Second thing I want to point out is I'm doing all of my editing, mixing, and mastering using Logic Pro 10, which is about $200, but it's well worth it because of the seamless integration with dragging and dropping music loops, all of the editing tools it has, all of the mixing and mastering tools it has, so it's well worth the purchase. Okay. So the next thing I want to show you is I want to show you how to edit unwanted audio from regions. So I pre-recorded this as a track. You can see there's two waveforms on it, one up here, one up here. That's because I pre-recorded it and saved it as a stereo file. So stereo, two files as opposed to one. That's why you see the two. So let me play the file that I have pre-recorded for you, and you can get a gist of what I'm talking about. How to record a podcast. I'm Dr. Frank. There you go. So you can clearly see that I use some fillers in there, long fillers at that. This was intentional, but sometimes it's unintentional. You still get those long fillers. I'm going to play it for you one more time. How to record a podcast. I'm Dr. Frank. All right. So I'm going to show you how to get rid of those fillers. So the ums are happening right here and right here. So there's a couple of ways that you can go about getting rid of those fillers. What I like to do is I like to split the region. So this is called a region, and I like to split it up and just pull out the stuff that I don't want. So I get right in front of there, I highlight it, and then you can go to edit, split, and then you want to split at either the playhead or the locator. We're going to do it at the playhead. There it is. So it's split. Now I want to get to the other side of that. So I click there and I do it again. But this time I'm going to show you the shortcut. The shortcut, if you're using a Mac, is Command T. And it'll split it for you. Now you just click on that region that you want to get rid of, hit delete, and it's gone. Now we want to bring the region, the playhead, right there to the end of the region. Now we want to join these regions together. So I'm going to click on this particular region because I want it connected to this other region right here. Shortcut again, Mac users, just use the semicolon button and it'll join it. So hit the semicolon and there you go. Now I'll play that first section for you with that gone. How to record a podcast. I'm Dr. Frank. All right, so we see we were effective in getting rid of that So now we want to get rid of that second So I'm going to put the cursor in front of this second which is about right here. A little bit more further, right there. Okay, so that's the first cut. Okay, so now we want to get rid of this right here. So there's a couple of things you can do. You can actually come in here and use the eraser tool. So you can use the eraser up. If anytime that you make a mistake like that, you basically go to edit and do undo delete and go back. Okay, so let's use a different tool because that seemed to like chop the whole thing up, and we definitely did not want to do that. We can use the marquee tool. Okay, there's your marquee tool. So we can highlight the section that we want to get rid of, and that's right here. And now hit delete. And it's gone. Now we'll click on this section, so we got to go use the pointer tool again. Pointer tool. Click on the region. Again, hit the semicolon on your keyboard. Now let's listen to our region. How to record a podcast. I'm Dr. Frank. All right, so now I'm going to show you how to use EQ and compression on your audio files to sweeten up your voice. So if you and your guest, even if the recording's a little bit low, you can use these two tools to equalize the volume. That's what compression does. It takes the high volume parts and the low volume parts, and it kind of equalizes them. And then EQ, which adds a lot of sweetener to your voice. So I'm going to play a pre-recorded track here for you so you can hear what it sounds like just dry before I add EQ and compression. Hey everybody, I'm going to record a little something to show you how to use compression and EQ for your audio file. So it doesn't sound bad because I'm using a really quality mic. I'm using the Shure SM7B with a high quality interface, which is the Solid State Logic 2 Plus. But I'm going to show you a couple of these sweeteners that I add to make your voice sound a little bit better. So I start off with EQ. So we're going to go to the audio file. So it's audio 2. And so with this I button right here, you open that up and you can see audio 2. There it is. So I'm going to go to EQ and I'm going to click on that box right there. And it's going to pull up an EQ. So one of the things that I like to do, especially when I'm working with beginners, is if there are some presets in any given EQ or compressor, I go that route because the learning curve when it comes to EQ is pretty steep. So in Logic Pro, there's a number of different presets. So the one I like to use, I scroll all the way down to EQ Tools, and then I choose Add Presence to Thin Sounds. And then it pulls up a preset. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a before and after just with EQ. So this is without the EQ. Hey everybody, I'm going to record a little something to show you how to use compression and EQ for your audio file. Okay, now I'm going to play it with the EQ. Hey everybody, I'm going to record a little something to show you how to use compression and EQ for your audio file. So that was really nice. It added a nice little boost in the 3K, 4K range there, a little crispness on the top end, which made it sound good. So a final step that I do when I'm using EQ is I roll off the low end all the way. So I click on this low end shelf here and I drag it to about 100 or so, because as you can see with the lines that are on the screen, we're not even getting any audio in that particular decibel region, in that hertz region. So just roll it off so you can just eliminate any floor noise that you might get. So that's what I tend to do. All right, so that's EQ. Now we want to add a compressor. So you click right under channel EQ, right in this space right here, and we're going to go to the compressor. Okay, now we're opened up to compressor. So in Logic Pro 10, it gives you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different compressors, which is awesome. They each have their own like distinct sound and whatnot. The one that I tend to use that's because it adds a little bit of character to my voice is the Studio FET, the black-faced one. So you can see once I turn that on right away, that's a nice little boost and some coloration to the voice. So the three knobs that I really worry about, so you're beginners, I don't want to go into too much detail. Basically, a compressor is going to like take the lowest parts of your voice and the higher volume parts of your voice and kind of just compress them so they're right around the same range. So the first thing I do is when I go to my threshold, I usually like to start right around 15. So I drop that to 15. The ratio I boost to 3, and the attack usually to 5. And that way the compressor goes on real quick, releases pretty fast. It gives you a nice little attack. These are some presets that I would recommend you starting with to give you a nice sense of getting a really good sound. And then at the end, if you still need some more gain after you've rolled off some of the dB with the compressor, you can add some makeup gain here to give you, so it can go louder and louder and louder until you get close to peaking. So, but we don't want to do that right now. But that is something to keep in mind as you use your compressor. So again, I'll play the file before the compressor and then without the compressor. So this is without the compressor. Hey everybody, I'm going to record a little something to show you how to use compression and EQ for your audio file. Okay, not bad. It sounded good. But now we're going to add the compressor again. We're going to go back to our Studio FET. For some reason, it wiped out my settings, so I'm going to just punch them back in. And now this is with the compressor. Hey everybody, I'm going to record a little something to show you how to use compression and EQ for your audio file. You can tell it gave it a nice boost. So now we have a lot of gain in the vocal, so the voice performance is nice and even across. So that is awesome. So that's using your channel EQ and compressor. So another thing I like to do with my audio files to make sure that they don't clip when they come in and out is use the fade tool. So I'm going to click on this audio file and basically choose the fade tool. And then I just drag it in before you get to the audio and drag it on this end. That'll make sure you don't get any unwanted clips when your audio file. Hey everybody, I'm going to record a little something to show you how to use compression and EQ for your audio file. Simple process, really nothing to it, but it adds a little bit something so you don't get those clips when you're putting your files together. All right, I want to walk you through the final couple of steps in this process, which is mastering and bouncing to an MP3 file. So again, what we want to do is make this simple and easy for you as possible. So again, what I like to do when I'm doing mastering is look at some factory presets. So I'm going to go to the stereo out channel, where you can see right here, stereo out. I'm going to go to setting, and I'm going to click on factory. And in the drop down menu, you see a whole bunch of different options. I'm going to choose broadcast ready because I want this to be like radio friendly, radio broadcast ready. So I click on that. And as you can see on the stereo out channel, it adds another compressor, a linear EQ, a multiplier, and an add limiter. These are all things that, when you get deep into sound engineering, are really super important to give like that track a little bit extra boost, both volume wise, gain wise, but then also just gives you like the sweetening sound that you need. Just think about like you make a cake. This is the icing on the top of the cake to make it sound super, super good. Each one of them serves a purpose, but I don't want to go into too much depth regarding them because this is a beginner's class. So again, what you want to do is you want to make this as simple as possible. This is a plugin that works, a preset that works perfectly well for me. I use it all of the time, very happy with it, and it'll get you exactly where you need to be. So that's the final stage of the process in terms of getting to, a good sound when it comes to like the final product that you put out there. So once you have that quick mastering done, you want to make sure and bounce it to an MP3 format or a WAV file format if you're using Windows per se. So you can get your podcasts uploaded to the different streaming services that are available. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to File, and you're going to go to Bounce. And we want Project or Section. And before I even select that, I can clearly see over here that I end right around 22. So it starts on measure 1, ends on roughly around measure 22. So we're going to bounce the project or section. So it starts at 1. This particular one's going to end at measure 22, so I'm going to plug that in and hit tab. There you go. So I'm going to save it as an MP3. It's going to bounce, and I'm going to bounce it at 24-bit resolutions, which is a pretty high resolution rate. You can also go to 16-bit for podcasting purposes, but I'd stay at 24 just to make sure that the sound is high quality. I hit OK. And it's going to bounce to my desktop. And there you go. So now I minimize, and there it is. Edit, mix, master your podcast. So now it's saved in MP3 format, and it's ready for uploading. So these are a couple of simple tools when it comes to editing, mixing, and mastering your podcast. Just the basics to get you ready and off the ground. I mean, we can do a whole course, trust me, on just editing, mixing, and mastering your podcast. And maybe I'll do that at a later time, but just to get you off the ground and this how to start a podcast course, this should get you started.